Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to yet another The Copy That stream where we are going to be critiquing copy. I believe today I might be the only person coming. However, Alex may come after he escapes the escape room that he's doing with his company. And if he doesn't come, that means he's going to be trapped there forever. So, thoughts and prayers for him. Pens, Sharpies. See, we got a few people here. How are you guys doing today? Alex does have a party every Thursday. His company is like most really awesome, crazy companies where they actually don't do a lot of work. Half their budget is actually allocated to team building. 40% of it is to marketing, and then the other 10% is for actually like offering goods and services and producing things of value. I am doing pretty good, Breezy. Thank you for asking. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Yeah, the best companies just do nothing. Can you guys see this all right? Okay, fantastic. Do I small talk with a client or get right into it? I do exactly what I'm doing right now, where I buy time as I pull together all the documents and settings that I was supposed to have done prior to the stream, and kind of bullshit my way through it. But more seriously, it really is just going to depend on the client and how you've spoken before. Usually it's pretty good to do like a sort of intro, warm up, hey, how are you doing, to break the ice. If not for the client, for yourself, so you can get through the nerves. But with other clients or people you know pretty well, you can just kind of get straight into it. Just don't like waste people's time. And I just got a message from Lindsay who says that she is driving, which means she's either driving to join me or she is driving as far as she can away from her computer, and I will still be alone. So on that note, let's hop into it. I think since this is mostly gonna be a solo stream for me, feel free to ask any questions you want as we go, and I will try to answer them as they are relevant to the copy we're talking about. And yeah, Yusuf, we right now are primarily using YouTube. We still run the Twitch stream, and so it's live right now, but for the most part, we care about YouTube. And thank you for the congrats. So let's jump into it. I think this first one is from, let's see, it might be Breezy. Yeah, so the first document we're going to critique is from our one and only Breezy. He says, okay, it's just not context. The email is intended to give financing options for on-the-fence buyers / people who couldn't previously afford to buy a home due to rate hikes. These are people in their CRM who are tagged as a buyer, home seeker, or those who are interested in market updates. Overall goal is to get people more engaged to lead to a free consultation. Okay, so we're driving towards a consultation. Let's see. Goodbye, cruel world. I will be nicer. So subject line, house emoji. Whoa, you can buy more home for less, even if you think it's too late. Rate hikes have unfortunately caused many house hunters to be priced out, leaving tens of thousands of wanted to, could have been homebuyers as should have been, can't now, sideline home wanters. Let's face it, unless utilizing this new financing strategy, buying a home is simply way more expensive, you'll get less for your buck, or unfortunately, you may no longer even be able to afford a home. unless that is you've been informed of this new financing method. Until this option emerged, tens of thousands of people were priced out. Oh, and when using this strategy, you won't even have to settle for a yardless shoebox size of a home either. People have been getting into homes right now with this tactic. Doors that were once thought closed have reopened. These financing strategies are new, proven, and are a win-win for home buyers and home sellers. It works. All right, sounds great. So what is this new financing strategy and how can you use it? You can utilize what's called a seller down, buy down strategy to save $1,000 per year on your mortgage. Here's how. Most people focus on the list price of the home when considering affordability, when in reality, it's the interest rate that has the most significant impact on overall wallet burden. I got lost. The buy down in this case is a strategy that allows for sellers to buy down a future home buyer's mortgage rate instead of just lowering the list price of the home. There are several ways that this can be implemented too. This allows you a few different options when seeing how you can get a more affordable monthly payment. Reach out here to get a free, no commitment buyer sell down consult. What would you like to learn about next? And so this is like the old version. All right, so before I say anything, what do you guys think is the biggest thing we can improve with this email? Because if you are a frequent viewer of these critique streams, there should be something that just immediately jumps out at you. I like that line, whether that's a whether that's a subject line or a line in the email. It's a little spicy maybe for this market, but I think that's like a real fear. First line needs to disrupt more, definitely. I think for me, first off, this thing is just way too long. And I know it's too long because by the time I got to, all right, sounds great. I started like noticing myself tripping up over words, kind of slowing down, mentally processing it. It stopped just being me internalizing the information and me trying to like focus on reading everything. And so that means that the sort of mental load on me required to process the email became too much. And so now it's like a much more active thing, which means more effort, which means someone who doesn't care about your copy is going to just click off. Subject line doesn't match content. Let's see. You can buy more home for less, even if you think it's too late. I think that is a really good point. The subject line is like not bad in and of itself, but what you end up talking about mostly is like the strategy, and you're not centering the benefit of more home for less. It's more so you can actually have a home as opposed to not having a home. The other thing, and I'm actually glad that you sent this to me because this is something that we don't really talk about much. First off, if you're talking about negative things, don't use the green check mark emoji. Just use like the X because that is a little disjointed. But there's, what do I call this? There's like a directionality thing where when you are describing like the pros or cons of something, try to only stick to describing like negative things and then in a different section talk about positive things. Because if I'm hearing something like, where'd you do this? Buying a home is simply way more expensive. So like negative. You get less home for your buck, negative. You may no longer be able to read a home, negative. That's fine. But then to sort of like jump back and forth a little bit between, okay, here's really bad, here's really good, bad, good, bad, good. I think it can feel a little bit disjointed, even if all this stuff makes sense. And so like here you open with, unless you're utilizing this like really good new thing that you haven't heard about before, bad things happen. Then it's, again, here's this really good thing. bad thing, bad thing, okay, good thing, good thing. And so it's kind of like bouncing back and forth. And so I think if you're going to tease that new method, you need to sort of build on it being good. Here's why it's good. And before I reveal what it is, without this, previously all of our clients were having bad experience, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then good thing happened, and then like build on it. So like you can't just, you gotta, if you're gonna bounce back and forth, you need to sort of like lay some groundwork for that. Yeah, skull and crossbones bullets for max impact. Let's see what else. I like the intention though with this, because you clearly have some, you have a sense of like what people are worrying about, and sort of the different pain points involved with those deeper worries. And so clearly like you have the understanding of like ideas or notions you can use to push your audience towards like connecting with you. But I think in the execution here, you fall into a thing where it just ends up being way too long, because if the goal is to eventually get them to click, then the sort of impetus for that needs to be in the email. And so if the thing you're teasing here, this new financing strategy, is like the thing you're enticing people with, then the payoff for this needs to be the click itself. So in order to find out what this is, they need to like have to click. So when you present that, you're like, oh my God, it's going to solve these pain points. It's so good, all these benefits. And then you just tell them what it is. Well, then they don't really have to click anymore unless they really want the consult. But if you don't explain it, or you don't say the name, and you're like, click here to find out more, click here to book a call, and we can explain how like to make it work for you, or how to implement the strategy for you, absolutely free. This click makes way more sense. So like, I think everything after here is just like completely unnecessary. And then it becomes mostly a matter of like, how are we optimizing the copy before this to like have everything working towards the call to action. So the ending can basically be cut then correct, go for the click primarily rather than giving real insight. Yes. And that's not to say that copyright should not be insightful, should not be, useful or interesting. However, if the mechanism you're trying to use to engage your audience and get them to click is the same thing as like what your copy is already building up towards, then you are in a position where it becomes necessary, or at least like really convenient, to have that payoff be on the other side of the click. And so this is where we have to consider our job is to sell things, to get people to do things, not just write really, really well or be really, really useful. And so you are sort of compromising things, and it is sort of shitty for the reader to have to click to get the payoff. But like that's actually our job in that situation, is to get them to do the thing. And if this is like, whether you're the business owner or whether you're just employed as a copywriter, I think it's a good thing to keep in mind that your job is just to get the action. And then once you have people taking actions, you can measure efficacy. You can measure things like, do people who click after this kind of call to action tend to end up converting into paid clients more? Do they not tend to convert as well? You can sort of play with the data, play with different options there, but without the data of having people click in the first place, you don't have anything to work with. So just consider that part of it, and don't feel bad or feel scummy that like, oh my God, I'm making them click to figure out this trivial thing, because like that's the whole job. Important question. So sorry, having a senior moment. First of all, no problem. We all have senior moments. Avoiding pain is stronger than seeking pleasure, or am I wrong? And is FOMO classified separately or as part of pain avoidance? It depends. However, I think generally speaking, the rule of thumb, and this is not like a writer preference thing, but a psychology, neuroscience thing, it has been shown to be the case that people tend to be much more afraid of losing something that they feel like they already have, then they tend to be excited or happy at the prospect of gaining something, even if that thing is of similar or exactly the same value. So like if we're in a position where we're playing a game, and if you land on, I don't know, we're playing with fake Monopoly money, and if you land on a certain space, I give you $100. That's gonna be great. But if I give you like a token that's like so you don't lose $100, that's gonna feel differently. Even if like in terms of like the math of the game itself, it ends up working out to like the same expected outcome. And yeah, so I think yes, the functionality is weakened just because you're trying to develop the writing to the extent you are, and so cutting out the stuff that is absolutely not necessary will give you the space to both improve the flow, improve the functionality, but it will also then give you space a little bit more to like actually flex your writing chops a little bit more. Which is generally speaking why it's really good to cut super aggressively, because then if you have only the essential parts, it gives you a little bit more wiggle room to expand on them, to play with them without bloating the rest of the copy. Do you have any more questions on this, Breezy, before I move on? Well, if not, then let's get to the next one. So who sent this one? This piece of copy was from Syzygy, who says the target audience is 25 to 55-year-olds, mostly female, who are seeking non-toxic skincare for dry skin. They're tired of lack of transparency that is labeled quote-unquote natural, but still contains harmful drying ingredients. They're frustrated by not being able to get their skin under control. They're aware that there are solutions out there, but they're still searching for the perfect one. Right now, it's just organic traffic to the site. They are currently on the 3rd chapter of Google AdWords by Perry Marshall as we speak. Some Laura. Okay. Sean recommends this book, Google AdWords by Perry Marshall. So if anyone else is interested in PPC or like buying ads on Google, we definitely recommend checking it out. Oh, okay. Awesome, Laura. I just opened the page, so it should be fine. All right. So we're just going to, and just for a clarification, do you just want me to look at the home page? Are there specific parts of this that you feel like are better or worse that you want me to take a look at? And let's just go from there. So we're as effective as possible. All right. Well, let's just get into this then. All right. So we got a web page. We are on the home page, which is an important page, but probably not the most important page. For those of you who don't know a ton about web copy, or I guess digital marketing, how we kind of like think about websites, homepages are not typically places that you want to drive traffic to. They're more like the index for your website. So maybe important announcements, the main gist of your services, links to lots of other places you eventually want people to go. But they're not usually the place that you want to actually drive traffic to. Typically, we would drive traffic to a landing page that has a very specific offer that potentially links to a purchase page. And the reason we do that is because people can get to your homepage through a variety of different means. They can just Google your website. They can show up there. They can be driven there by other things. Their friends can link them there. And as a result, it's really hard to measure why is it that people are getting there, what sorts of headlines or like things on the page are actually keeping people there. And so when we're testing things, when we're trying to actually test offers themselves, you almost never want to send people to the homepage because you have people who are looking for products, but also people who are looking for like contact us information because they want to sue you, for example. So just something to keep in mind as we go through this homepage. Okay, Laura says just the homepage is good. And it's no problem whatsoever if you're delayed. So first things first, we get to the homepage. Terralingo Rain, get 15% off your first order and be the first to hear about our new product drops. So this is very standard newsletter sign up, get 15% off. It's good to have. I would say maybe if you can have this pop up like on scroll. So like once someone has scrolled down a little bit, that'd be great. Because for me, this is the first time I've come to this website. I know nothing about the product. I know nothing about the premise behind it. And so I don't want the coupon, even if I might eventually want the coupon, because I know nothing about the product yet. So at least give me time to like get here and see this overhaul your routine with clean artisanal skincare bit. So I know what it is and what I'm signing up for a coupon for. Obviously you can test that. You can have it be further down the page. You can have it be on click off. So like when someone goes to close the tab or exit out of their webpage. But I would say at least give people a chance to see what's there before you ask them to sign up. Yeah, so onto the actual copy. So home, products, contact, about us, search bar. What is this? Cart. Oh, okay. So pretty standard stuff at the top. I'm not an e-com guy, so I don't have a ton to say about this. Other than maybe for products, depending on how many you have, it can be useful to have this be like a drop-down thing with different categories or frequently browse products. So for example, like let's say you have like 3 different kinds of balm or something. When someone scrolls over products, if you have it come down, you have it list like either categories of like balm, lotion, I don't know, other skincare products. That will allow people to just directly click onto the thing and go directly either to that category or to that specific product page, which makes the sort of customer journey of getting from here to the thing they want to buy easier, which should increase your actual total amount of transactions in the long run. So, headline: overhaul your routine with clean artisanal skincare. Reinvigorate your skin with non-toxic whole ingredients following nature's blueprint. Shop now. This is fine. I guess my thought is actually pretty similar to Warren's, which is overhauling your routine sounds like a lot of work. And as someone who is looking to improve the quality of their skin, I don't know if I want a lot of work to fix the thing that is bothering me so much. Particularly as someone who knows that some people's skincare routines are really, really intense. They're washing their face like 15 times before they get up before they go anywhere in the morning. They have to cleanse their pores, then do a facial scrub, then do a face wash, then do like a face, and then they're going like, I don't necessarily want to sign up for that. And so maybe a different verb might be better. Though Laura does say that she stole this from VOC data and people wanting to revamp their skincare routines, which are surprisingly complex. So this is a case in which definitely knowing your audience is really important. Testing this is really important. I would say that we should listen to VOC. And however, I think it's often the case that VOC is not like the words VOC uses is not necessarily the words that you want to use, because typically what people are saying is not the literal thing they want. It's a reflection of some inner state or desire. So for example, let's go back to this really quick. The people wanting to revamp their skincare routines is not like, no one wants a skincare routine. No one wants to have to do all of the things in the morning to have the glowing, beautiful skin that they're not self-conscious about. What people want is the end state of having that really high quality, beautiful, smooth, silky skin. And so the revamping the skincare is like something that people are willing to do, or something that people think they have to do in order to get the end result. Therefore, you don't have to sell people specifically revamping their skincare or like a routine that is a revamp. You want to sell something that is signaling that if they do the thing, they will get the thing they want. Which is why things like simplifying your routine, transforming your routine, also work as like potential headlines here. But I would argue that something more emotional, like what Warren's saying, that gets to like that inner desire, might actually end up being more effective for getting people interested or excited about the product itself. So, I don't know specifically what it is for this audience, but like when I think of natural beauty products, when I think of things that like aren't drying out skin, non-toxic, organic, whatever, what those things are all touching on is like this desire to not have to worry about the skincare routine, or like how doing this thing for yourself might actually make your condition worse. That sort of anxiety about your actual the state of your skin, but the anxiety that doing something else is like that you thought was going to make things easier is actually going to make things harder. And so something like I don't know. This is the wrong audience, but if this were like a male one, like a skincare products focused on dudes, you could say something like, "Take the bullshit out of your skincare routine." Just kind of getting at that very pointedly, like, this shouldn't be so fucking hard. It should be easy. It should be comfortable to have the beautiful kind of skin that you're looking for. And so that's why we took the bullshit out of our product, so you can take the bullshit out of your life. Yeah, lots of like good comments here. And of course, we have to say that there are many angles you could approach this from and find success. So it really is just a matter of testing. It's a matter of lining these things up with whatever brand identity materials you're working with, because lots of things can work. But when it comes to the headline itself here, because it's the very first thing that people are going to see, you just want to make sure that whatever it is, it's potent, it's powerful, because this is your first impression that you're making. So scrolling down. So we got a value stack. Nourishing, restore your skin's health with natural vitamins and powerful antioxidants. Biocompatible, protect your natural barrier so your skin heals itself from the inside out. It's clean. It's free from all this stuff. It's impassioned. We painstakingly hand make every batch to ensure you get the highest quality products and the least environmental impact. I would change like the phrasing on this part just very slightly. Like maybe like it caused the least environmental impact. On my first read of this, I was like, is that good or bad to have low environmental impact? But I know what you mean, but just maybe consider like adding a word there. I feel like these three are kind of generic. In that, like, probably most skincare products talk about these things in similar-ish wording. And they do that presumably because it's important. But also, if everyone else is talking about it, we need to have some things that are going to make this product stand apart for like this very first impression type thing. So if what you're selling on here is like non-toxic whole ingredients following nature's blueprint, then one of the first things here needs to be, non-toxic, like turn this biocompatible thing into something that's like this word needs to be something different, like non-toxic, like empathetic skincare, something that just like is going to be like the defining quality of this, because what you're talking about here does not really resonate like with these things in a very profound way. And so like center that, your USP, and then you could sort of like add these things in afterwards. But again, we're still at the point at which we're trying to like stand out as a product. And so that needs to be centered. Yeah, and it's if you're waiting for proof and data, et cetera, as a copywriter, you only have what you've been given to work with, so that's fine. Just in assessing the copy itself, what I notice is that lack of specificity and sort of passion that would lead this to being something a little bit bigger. But that's not always your fault, and it's often out of your control. So that's not any sort of reflection on you as a copywriter. True Potential asks, but what does it do? Does it get you fairer skin? Does it cleanse waste from the skin? Skin health is nice, but maybe appealing to the visual side will be better. I think this is a fantastic point. And depending on what all the products are, what your most popular products are, it will be useful to sort of speak to those things. So do you only have like balms that prevent skin dryness? Say lip balm, we got creosote salve, beard oil, hair oil. So it looks like you have a couple of different things, but probably you could distill those to a few specific actions or mechanisms of action to describe in the copy itself to make that a little bit more clear. Often for like lotion commercials, for example, they'll even have like the graphic where it's like, oh, the Juvederm penetrates the skin and gives life to the pores by doing this, that, or the other, nourishing, moisturizing, beautifying, whatever. And just describe the process itself can be very, very powerful. Okay, we got two people fighting in the comments. Let's see. So Warren first says, the first three columns fit, the last one doesn't. Which I think is, it depends. I understand what you're saying. So these are just very much like benefits, features of the product. And this last one is more of like a mission statement, what we believe in, et cetera, kind of thing. And so it is a little bit distinct. Personally, I feel like this type of thing where you're just making like a value statement, like we as a company believe this thing and that's why we do everything we do, is better. Maybe not for like products like this, but just like as a way to stand out, as a way for people to see you and understand like where you're coming from and why the work you're doing matters. I personally like love this kind of thing. But for physical products where they're buying a concrete thing, the features are pretty important. On the flip side, though, we have Evan, who thinks the exact opposite of Warren. Because being handmade seems like more of a unique selling point than the other three. And so it seems like you're not actually disagreeing. You're just drawing a distinction between which of the things is important, which is completely fine. And that's why we're copywriters, because we can argue about all these things. Specifically for cosmetics, I think Evan does have a point in that handmade cosmetics definitely have their own sort of artisanal air to them, which is interesting and can make them stand apart in a really saturated market. So I'm not going to declare a winner here because I think you're both right to an extent. So revel in that. So next we have some products with some choose options, add to cart, Let's see what happens when I click this. So size, quantity, add to cart. It's kind of cool. You can actually add to cart from here. Same thing. See what our customers say. So testimonials. Great. And then we get into the actual copy. Tired of lack of transparency in skincare products, so was I, especially the ones claiming to be for, quote, sensitive skin. Only to realize too late they're filled with harsh chemicals and artificial dyes or scents. 20 ingredients you can't pronounce aside from sulfates and alcohol. Now your skin is more inflamed than ever. That moisturizer just stripped your skin of what was left of its natural barrier, the living layer that helps to keep your skin healthy and radiant. And now you're experiencing an out of control breakout that hurts. This might sound like a horror story, but it's happened to me in phases throughout my life. I knew my skin was having a natural response to environmental changes and stress, but all of the artificial cures were just making the problem worse. Oh no. I need something to restore my skin and nourish it back to taking care of itself. Something that had simple whole ingredients and a formula that anyone could make sense of. Okay. And then this takes you to another page. Okay. So this is interesting. What are you guys saying in chat? We have a new challenger has entered the ring. Nabil says that they're both wrong because it depends on the audience, their preferences, and whether they value proof, smiles from a woman, or appeal, actual pic of the product. All right, I did miss a bunch of comments saying that there should be more pictures of the product, which I think could be beneficial. It's a pretty short page, and so you don't necessarily need many more. One option would be to have distinct product pages on which you have pictures of people smiling, et cetera, et cetera. One useful thing to do on pages like this is to have some pictures of the product in use, or the after effect, like the after state of using the product. And so maybe like here you have some people smiling with radiant skin, or like down here for like the review section, it's not just like the picture of the product, but it's like a picture of someone wearing the product, smiling, all radiant, because that does give a sort of like a future cast image of like what your life could look like if you, which is often very helpful. Oh, less pictures of the product. Sorry, less pictures of the product. Wait, did I read that wrong? Yeah, sorry, less pictures of the product itself, more pictures of like the product in use is what I'm advocating for. Of course, pictures of happy, beautiful people are always great. So for this copy itself, this is interesting to me. So I think that these sort of like origin stories are typically not done very well. And the reason for that is that we often try to be really, really honest about them. And I'm not saying that you should lie in your copy, but I think the stories that we live in the order that we live them as we experience themselves are often not reflective of the things that other people experience. And so if the reason we're telling stories is to give people an image of ourselves as people who struggle through the things that they went through, went on this long journey to find a solution, and now we're bringing them that solution because we understand their pain, then we need to condense our story. We need to sort of streamline our story so that that narrative is reflective of the state that the person to whom we're speaking is currently in. So in that, from that perspective, I think leading in with like being tired of lack of transparency in skincare products is not the best approach, because what you're starting with here is like the non-toxic whole ingredients. You're centering this sort of idea of using products that make your skin look good and make you feel good about using them. Not this sort of like the industry is not at all transparent. They're hiding ingredients from you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'd say that most skincare products are actually quite blatant with the ingredients they use and the extent to which they're harmful. So I think something like tired of skincare products that claim they're, toxin free, but still make you break out anyway, so was I, would be a better way to lead in if that's the angle that you ultimately want to use. And yeah, like Fairlith is saying in chat, this story about you, we need to realize is actually the story about the prospect. So even though you're telling a story about yourself, minimizing usages of I and me can help in giving the reader the ability to read it and read it in their own voice and relate to it and imagine that it's themselves telling the story. That's more of a writing trick than anything else, but it's important to keep in mind. And I think that's something that we kind of naturally attune to, because I see you here saying your skin, like, even though you start off, so was I, and then you're telling the story about, especially the ones doing this and the other, and then you say now your skin is more of them than ever. So clearly, you know that you're talking to them and you're trying to tell their story for them. Just, center that in your mind. And so you're telling the story of how they have this product, it sucks, they have a problem, now it's even worse. And then you slip back into, even though that might sound like a horror story, it's happened to me in phases throughout my life. So one, which order do I want to say this in? So one, I think saying this might sound like a horror story is bad, because presumably the reason you're telling the story is because you think it's something that the reader's going to resonate with. And so if they can resonate with it because they're experiencing it, or they have experienced it in the past, then they know that it's not a horror story already without you telling them, because it's something they've already lived through, or something they're already afraid of happening. So don't say it might sound like a horror story, because if it's a good story, if it's accurate to what you think about your audience, they already know that this is the truth. And so you don't have to discount that story by saying, like, oh, it might sound exaggerated, oh, it might sound unbelievable. Their horror should be their reality. So don't say that. Secondly, and this is more of a overall writing thing, we want there to be one very easy continuity. So if I tell you a story where I'm like, so when I was in 5th grade, there was this girl I really liked, and so I started to talk to her, and it was really awkward because in the 1st grade there was this other girl who ended up being the 5th grade girl's best friend. But this other time in the 4th grade, we kissed under the swings, which pissed off this other girl who was in the 2nd grade. So when I was in the 5th grade talking to that girl the first time, there was all this baggage I had to deal with. That story is really confusing because I'm bouncing back and forth, and it's not just one smooth line. So when we tell stories and we say and you say things like happened to me in phases throughout my life, that sort of conjures up this image of okay, one time it's happening and it was another time this is happening, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that generally speaking, it is best to just remove lines like this and say, across my life, one smooth continuity, in one specific period of my life, as a young adult, or after I had kids, that specificity or presenting things in a chronological order helps a ton in providing clarity, or a clarity of image for the person reading the story. Let's see some comments. So Farrell says, I also wonder if you could create product page or content pages focusing on only one point per page. All these different demographics. This is a fantastic point. Just a reminder, this is the homepage, and so it's tough because you're trying to speak to everybody, which means you can't speak to each group individually. But just as a potential room to grow for this website, definitely having content pages that focus on specific issues for specific demographics would be really, really beneficial. And you could then turn those, or just create them initially as landing pages that you then have very honed in PPC marketing for. So, teenage zit removal, or pre-menopause skincare, and then just drive and test specifically for those individual pages. You're going to have way more success doing that than just having one general page for everybody. See what else. True Potential says, I feel like too many products use the story format. Seller couldn't find X, so they made it themselves. It is true that this is incredibly common. I would not go as far as to say that too many people use this, because it is effective. And so as long as it works, I think it's too soon to say that too many people use it. And approaching it from the other side, you could say that so many people use it because it is effective. which is something to keep in mind. As we create new ads, as we are testing new angles, don't try to start doing something that's completely new that no one's ever done before. Start from what's currently working and iterate from there. See if you can do something that's better. Because the things that are working, the things that are really commonly used, tend to be used because they are effective. Obviously, you don't want to be boring or become too derivative, but we definitely don't shun what's popular just because we want to be different. I think having more of like a honed in angle would be good, but this is where I would lean more into that more I would call it like brand identity angle, where what you do on the homepage should be more about like, who are you as a business? Why do you care about it? What's the passion? Which can then be applied to many different demographics or audiences. And so that's why at the very top, I actually don't mind this part, because I think things like this tend to give you sort of basis for why are we here, why are we doing this work in the first place, that can set you apart in a way that can apply to like a wide variety of products or services. Your home, and so like if you're going, I would much rather have you spend the time to create landing pages focusing on those different demographics or potential angles you'd like to explore, than to put way more time to make the homepage better. Because if you're doing your marketing well, which I know you are because you're studying how to do PPC, this is not where you're going to be sending the vast majority of people. So I wouldn't worry too much about this. So that was a lot on that. I think I'm good to move on. Do you have any more questions, Laura, before we do so? Or does anyone else have any questions about this before I move on? All right, so looks like we're good. We're going to save this one to last. So the next one is, who's this from? One moment. Next one's from Shan Francisco. It's a welcome sequence for info products for a coach. I just ate a fruit snack. So the product is a manifestation program for a spiritual coach. Swearing is permitted in the copy. That's a great thing to know. Audience is solution-aware women's late 20s to 40s with a spiritual bent, yoga, meditation, etc. They've tried manifestation before, but either no or little success. And prospects are subscribing to this list via a lead gen free ebook. Okay. Just a few pages. So probably I'm just going to go through the first email or two, and then we'll see where we're at from there. So the welcome email. So subject is your free 28-page workbook inside. Hi, name. Welcome to our tribe of conscious manifestors. I am so excited to help you manifest the life of love and abundance that you deserve. Your inner being has brought you here because deep down you know you can have more, and now is your time to level up and create the life you desire. Say no more to worrying if you can pay the bills each month, stressing out because of unexpected bills you can't afford, where you are just surviving on the bare minimum each day instead of thriving. Those days are over. It's time to take back control, manifest what you desire, and have the life of your dreams. And I will show you how with the number one mistake everyone makes when manifesting and what to do instead. Download now. These are the same strategies I have used to help thousands of people live out their wildest dreams. Screenshot. And if you stick around, I will show you how to up-level your abundance like never before. It's not bad. All right, so let's just go through this one first, and then we'll move on to the next one. All right. Do you guys have any thoughts on this before I get into it? And goodbye, Warren. As far as I know, swearing in emails should not hurt deliverability, but that's more of a question for Sean. If you add him on the Discord, he will probably answer that with a yes or no. So getting into the email itself, I think this is a pretty good welcome email. One thing I'd say is for stuff like this, where it's like a list of things, but it's not always clear it's a list, just add some bullets here just so people can know that these are bullets. Because I then got to this part and thought this was still a bullet, but it's not. Breezy notes that starting off with I is a little bit less intriguing, and that it may be better to start about talking about the prospect. I generally agree with that. However, for this, where people are getting this because they have just signed up for a free thing. So I assume this is like the email. This is the email. It's actually fulfilling it. So you sign up and it's like, hey, welcome to our tribe. I'm so excited to help you. And then you get right into talking about someone about them and what in their life, etc. This is not particularly egregious to me. I think that's fine. It's a little bit most of my critiques for emails like this tend to be like in a specific language and matching the audience. And unfortunately, I don't know a ton about manifestation. So this feels like it's in the right sort of tone for me. But I can't say for sure. One thing I would add to this, and you would do that like probably below here, is set some expectations for what this email list is going to be, or how someone should behave in the email list, what they should be expecting to do. And so if you say like, PS, for the next however many days, I'm going to send you an email about X topic, or, as a member of, or as like a tribe member or whatever, I'd love to send you insights about this or Y thing every X or Y often. Just letting people know how often should they expect to get emails from you. What sorts of emails are there going to be? Offers? Is it just going to be random advice? Should they be looking forward to it? Is it something they're not interested in? And the reason why you do that is because even if like somewhat like or lots of people who will sign up for a Legion or who will like get a Legion thing, put their email in, whatever, get the free ebook, unsubscribe. That's fine. But what you don't want is to have a ton of people on your list who have signed up, who start getting a ton of emails from you because you email often, and then they're reporting it as spam or whatever, because in the long run, that will hurt deliverability, whether that's because they're reporting it or whether they're just not opening it. And so if they don't actually want your emails, let them know what to expect so that they can unsubscribe sooner rather than later, because it does everybody a favor. I think as a point of strategy, I think having a screenshot of testimonials here is interesting because you've already sort of sold them on the main thing, which is this Legion product, and you're not trying to sell them on anything else. And so given that like you're kind of like leading into the thing here, here's the book, then saying I've helped thousands of people as like a credibility point, I don't exactly know what that credibility is building towards. And so if you're going to do that, that's not bad, but I do think that then presents an opportunity to entice to sell on the next thing, which there almost always is. So like thousands of other people I've helped this many people. Here's a screenshot. And if you stick around, I'll show you how to. It's probably level up. Word. I'll show you how to, follow the path, tell them that something else is coming, basically. And like Expo CEO says, some lines could be shortened up. I don't think the copy here is a huge problem, but certainly can always be refined, improved. So email number 2 is confirmation of commitment to self. Interesting. So subject line, 3 things I know about you. Hi, name. When you decided to download my book, that's when I knew you had just made a massive internal shift. 1, you've tried everything under the sun to manifest more abundance, but it never works. 2, you're fed up with how manifestation seems so hard for you. But you had to go through all that shit because it was the bridge that led you to this point. 3, you're ready and committed as fuck to creating your life of abundance. I say this because I and all the people I've helped have gone through the same powerful process before we finally made it to the other side. The fact that you're here is a sign from the universe that you're ready to ditch old ways and beliefs that don't serve you, ready to awaken to a new way of being, where abundance, success, and happiness are your norm because you have the power to create what you want. And in truth, it's not complicated. If you just master this one thing, you can manifest whatever you desire. So today, this is my gift to you. Warning, when I did this, 90% of what I wanted manifested within 24 hours. Video link. This is by far my most popular video training, and the results speak for themselves. I just can't wait to hear what awesome results you will have with this. Okay. So I want to talk about the swearing. This is interesting to me. I think that I don't have a problem with swearing personally, morally. I cuss like a fucking sailor in my personal life, and I tone it down for the streams because, YouTube, etc. But, cuss words don't offend me, and I think they are very, very productive. However, we need to think about what those words do in the context of a sentence. When I say the word fuck really, really loudly in the middle of a sentence or before something else, it is a attention grabber. It's like, oh my God, pay attention because what I'm about to say is really important, or holy shit, what's happening with Rod? Let's look at him. So when you say you are ready and committed as fuck to creating your life of abundance, I think we have to be really careful about how that word affects the way in which the rest of that sentence is internalized. What you've done up until this point is you were trying to paint this picture of how this person is, of this shift that they're making, this manifestation turn, we might say. And so if you're getting in there, you've tried everything under the sun, it never works. You're fed up with this, but you had to go through everything because that was the bridge that led you to this point. You're painting this struggle. And so then you say, you're ready and committed as fuck to creating your life of abundance. I think you can use it there, but I don't think that works with maybe the tone of what you've used so far. When I can think of some cases in which that might be effective, but it's more like we're talking about we might be centering the frustration you've had, or we might be centering your dedication, and it's not a polite conversation anymore. It's not a pretty conversation. It is you've gone through so much fucking shit, and you deserve, and you've earned, and you are ready as fuck because you went through all that bullshit. So now this is your moment. That's a very different vibe, at least it feels to me, than how you've kind of set up this so far. And because it's relatively short into the email, there's not a ton of space to sort of set the precedent, I think. Fairlift makes a good point that the language is pretty typical for some female manifestation coaches. And that could absolutely be the case. This is not a space with which I'm familiar. So if it is the case that the things people have seen before this, that the book itself, etc., if it's consistent with that, ignore literally everything I just said. But to me, as a reader who isn't familiar with the space, who doesn't know the terminology so much, it feels a little bit unnecessary. Or if you are going to do that, I would recommend setting up the preceding lines a little bit differently. But again, know your audience, yada, yada, yada. I feel like, doing this stuff is so unsatisfying because the answer is almost always, it depends. Who's your audience? There's always going to be like that one person out there who finds that usage of the word fuck the perfect thing is going to buy purely because you put that in there. And so if I tell you to take it out, you're not going to get that one specific sale and your day is going to be ruined. Let's see. With that said, I do think that, like, generally speaking, you do a pretty good job in this sort of like escalating. I actually don't have a word for this. This thing you're doing where you are taking the notion someone has and then building on it. The fact that you're here's a sign, and because we have the sign, we know you're ready to ditch this, which means that you're ready to awaken this, and then you're ready to have all these benefits because of this first thing. I think this is a really powerful writing technique where you're taking something that someone already believes and you're just slowly iterating on it to build up to the notion that they are ready or something else good is about to happen. And so when you connect those ideas, you're able to effectively tell someone that something's going to happen that is not certain based on something that they already believe is true. And so that's good writing. I don't know how I feel about this warning. Like, I'm going to give you this GIF, but warning. It could work. Yeah. I'm not going to say take that out, but it feels like video, like YouTube title-y to me. And so I do, like, my eyebrow did raise a little bit. Just think about that. I don't think that San Francisco is here. So I think I'm going to move on now. Does anyone else here have questions about this or anything we've talked about with this one? This is a fantastic point. The warning is good because some could be overwhelmed with too many positive things happening in their life. All right, so let's kick on to the next one. Ooh, this is a good question. Rod, do you think that writing in a staccato style is effective? Can you picture the entire email, but it's a couple of 2 to 3 line paragraphs and CTAs in between and at the end? This is a really interesting question, and one that I don't want to say I struggle with it, but it's something I care about. So, this is not the best email for this, but I guess so. Let's just talk like copy talk. So the way most copy works right now in the modern internet is that, like, people don't write in paragraphs anymore. They're like, fuck paragraphs. One line paragraphs are way better for readability. They're way easier. They're way easier for people to parse, and so it's much more likely if we write that way that people will actually read our content or like absorb more of our content, which will lead them to buying more of our shit because they've actually read the things we're writing to try to sell them on said shit. Okay, that's the doctrine. And that's probably true. I'm not a big fan of that because I come from like a literature background and I really like paragraphs, and I feel like it's not particularly onerous to read a paragraph of text. And when you have a paragraph of text, it flows very easily if you're able to read the sentences. And you can delineate between ideas or indicate changes in ideas or moments through paragraph breaks. Most people are that's not most people. And so I think generally speaking, the sort of copy style where we decrease the space between lines, where we are shortening things, where we're as brief as possible, is probably a better sort of default mode. the staccato style specifically, and if you don't know what staccato is for whatever reason, it's like very quick, very punchy, very often like very like short in like length style. And so it's like, let's see, do they do this in this email? So like this right here, where it's like the fact that you're here is a sign from the universe that you're is a sign from the universe that you're ready. Ready to ditch old ways and beliefs that don't serve you. Ready to awaken the new way of being. Ready to this, ready to that, ready whatever. Building up to this crescendo of revelation. I think that that is a good tool to use. But if you write an entire email like that, it's going to feel really disjointed. Because if you don't have, text like this beforehand that is framing those moments, then it just feels like idea fragment, idea fragment, idea fragment with nothing to connect the other pieces. So that is like something you can use and something that's like very, very good for creating these very emotional moments. However, if that's the only thing you do, it's going to feel like a text chain with your friends where they're like half-ass sending things and you're filling in the blanks with your mind, but it's not from your friend and it's not a text chain and you don't actually know what the person wants to tell you or what they're trying to sell you. And so probably that's not the best way to like write emails that you're trying to sell things with. Yeah, making that Comp 101 teacher cry. I swear to God, when I first got into copywriting, I was always so angry because I would write these paragraphs and other people would be like, this is the worst writing ever. And then I would read what they wrote and it was like, really, copy looking like, but the writing was just terrible. And I was like, fuck you, you guys don't know how to write. And then I met some people who were really well established and they were like, no, really, write like that. And I was like, God damn it, I have to make the shift. Kyle Milligan's book that Alex swears by, and Kyle Milligan is an excellent copywriter, just so we're very, very clear. His book, Take Your Words, is written in that style. And the first time I read it was right at the beginning of my copywriting journey. And I hated it. I hated it so much because it was just like very spoken language, very short, very punchy. And I felt like it wasn't actually saying anything because the sort of like textbook style I'm used to is very dense, very verbose. Everything you're saying is like for a literal effect, not for a sort of like emotional copy effect. And so I actually despise his book, even though it is an excellent example of good copywriting. Should you still do a lot of research to find the client if you are the perfect client for the product that you're writing for? So I think what you're asking is, should you still do research even if... Oh, so you're saying if you're the perfect client, should you still, like if you were or would be the perfect potential customer for a product, should you still do research on the product if you're writing for it? I would say the answer is definitely yes, because there are often multiple perfect prospects for products. And just because you might like to buy it doesn't mean that the reasons you want to buy the thing for are the reasons that other people would like to buy it for. Yeah. And so if you just write for yourself, basically, you might end up missing some things that are obvious or other great opportunities. Moving on. This one is from somebody. From Samal, who says, here's my soap opera email, high drama, backstory, wall. It's for a sales course that is aimed towards beginner/intermediates. Would really appreciate it if you could tear it apart to pieces. We can do that. So subject line, the $61 million lesson. My palms were sweating while I was anxiously waiting for a response from the black suited man. There I was, negotiating a $61 million deal with PepsiCo's CEO. I will not lower the price, I told myself. I told myself. He will accept the deal. My presentation was on point, and I built the perfect offer. I was trying to get my anxiety under control, simultaneously hoping that the CEO doesn't see me sweating. And finally, after 2 minutes of pure silence, he opened his mouth and said, "Deal." I shook his hand in disbelief, knowing that I had just closed the biggest deal in our entire company's history. It was 10 times the amount I earned in my first 10 years of B2B sales combined. But how did I get here? Because surely I wasn't born a great salesman. And I remember the time when I was making 100 phone calls a day, every day, and getting only 2 or 3 appointments booked a day for all my effort, about 50 a month, to only find myself closing around 5 low ticket clients. Maybe this isn't for me, I told myself. Some people are just born as great salesmen, and I would never be able to compete with them. My mind was foggy. I could work as an accountant for the same pay without all the hassle. That was it. I wanted to quit sales. The stress and constant pressure were not worth it. Later that month, I figured out something that entirely changed how I viewed sales, something that would lead me to close over $100 million in software in a single year. I was doing it all wrong. And no, it wasn't just hard work. So would you like to know what I figured out? Are you interested in how I was able to skyrocket my sales career? If so, then look for my email tomorrow. I'm going to show you the epiphany I had, but more importantly, I'm going to explain how you can use it to get similar results in your sales career. So look for tomorrow's email. The subject line is X. Thanks. Name. Okay. We got an email. Okay, so where to start with this? So for those of you who are not familiar, soap opera emails, I believe, were, oh God, I'm mixing up my marketers. I think Dan Throssell talks about these a lot. If it's not Dan Throssell, it's Russell Brunson. Basically, the idea, I'm pretty sure it's Dan Throssell, but basically the idea is that you're just going to tell this really high drama story that leads up to a moment with a cliffhanger that then leads into the next email. And so you just kind of keep, really entertaining, really engaging, keeping people waiting for the next thing so that they keep engaging, keep reading your shit, but never give them that moment of complete satisfaction so they continue to look forward to the next piece. In terms of, I think the actual strategy for this email, I feel like this is pretty successful. You tell the story, you're doing all these writing things to make it feel high tension. You start in the middle. So you don't start at, so I was going into the meeting and then I prepared the presentation. You start, after all that stuff has happened. This is like the pinnacle of, oh my God, I'm sweating. Oh my God, I thought this stuff was going to happen. Here are the stakes. Here's this, that, the other. And so you just throw them into it. And so this is like the most engaging way to start an email. So, good job there. Deal. I think what I struggle with, or what I would definitely focus on improving, is the part that comes after this dude takes the deal. Because once you get to like here-ish, one, there's just like some language stuff, and so go back, read this out loud, because some of these things aren't gonna sound completely right, just like on an English level. So fix that up for clarity, fluency. But then, so you have this whole big thing. Oh my God, the CEO of PepsiCo said yes, and it was this amazing amount. How did this happen? And so when you track backwards in this way, you need to set it up like, I was just like you, and I was working so hard. And you do a good job here of saying like, oh my God, I was working so hard, and yet only this meager amount that probably you're doing the same. But this part is like way longer than the part that's actually interesting. And so all of the work you do to build up to this moment is like great, but I feel like you then sort of wasted by then making them read through this like really long piece that's like not super interesting. So if you're going to tell the story of what you're like when you're them, you need to like distill it down to like a couple key lines or phrases. I think that this part is actually pretty good. And so if you're just like, I'm just going to do some line edits, like, I wasn't born a great salesman. In fact, all my life, I struggled to make sales, which then leads to example. I remember a time when I was making 100 phone calls every single day. Dot, dot, dot. And still only getting 2 to 3 low ticket appointments booked. Actually, make this even shorter. And still only managing to book low ticket. We'll call them like consultation calls. And for all my effort, I was only closing around 5 low ticket clients a month. And so then you say, started to seriously doubt I could make it in this business. Some people are born great salesmen. And clearly, I wasn't. Delete this. I can work as accountant for the same pay without all the hassle. And then you delete this. Replace this with stress. And so the key here is that like really big, high thing, payoff, backstory, how I'm just like you, struggling, having terrible results, just like you. Some people were just born this way. I wasn't, just like you. I could work doing this other thing this person's already considered without all the stress. And then what you do is you have to give them like what's the reason that you didn't quit? And so you give them something to hang on to. But there was something inside of me that just didn't want to give up. And I was lucky I didn't. Because later that month, I figured out something that changed the course of my life. Something that entirely changed how I viewed sales. Something that would lead me to close over $100 million in software in a single year. It turns out I was doing it all wrong. And no, the secret wasn't just this thing you think it, I'm going to say. And then you just change this to be like, actually, just delete this entirely. I'm going to share with you. Revelation that changed my life. Tomorrow. Okay. And more importantly, I'm going to explain how you can use it to get similar results in your career. And then you just have some other close. Thanks. All right, this email's much better. Jovo or Yovo, sorry if I mispronounced that, says, "Hi Rob, I recently joined Copywriter Lite and I've been writing emails every day. I am getting better and better. My question is, how can I get clients after I get really good at writing emails?" Excellent question. So the number one way to get better at writing emails and making all the money in the world is by joining us at patreon.com/thecopythatshow, because we teach you everything you need to know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Plug. No, but more seriously, there are lots of ways to get clients. If you go to our YouTube channel, which you're currently on, you can go to our videos and just search, because we've made many, many videos on getting clients. The short version is it's just going to come down to picking an acquisition approach and using it consistently. So whether that's something like Upwork/Fiverr, whether that's your cold emails, whether that's pitching local businesses or people you might know who could use some email services. The long story short, you're just going to pick one, start doing it, and do it long enough that you improve in it. And as you improve in it, you'll get better. You'll get more clients. You'll get more experience, which will make it easier to get more clients, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can also try applying for jobs in-house places, like by creating some spec work, which is not very hard. I feel like we have some videos on that here as well. And yeah. Samal says, "You're definitely right with clarity. I need to distill it down and emphasize on parts that actually matters. Super thanks for the revision and valuable information, Rod." You're very welcome. Thank you for submitting this. And just to be like super, super clear, when I do stuff like this is like super hard editing mode. I would not typically do this, but I think this is just a good example of like how you can take something that it's like the thought is right and then just change the implementation a little bit to make it a lot more clear and emotional. Because like the difference between these two things is the difference between like someone loving this and then not reading, and loving it and then getting to the bottom where you're and then actually looking forward to the next email. You got to keep them on the emotional roller coaster all the way through if you're going to do the if you're going to use this method. I do think like the way in which you're thinking about this is correct, and so really it's just a matter of revising, editing, thinking about, is this the best ways to do the thing I'm trying to do? And you're welcome. Jovo. All right, next one. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got 5 or 6 more to do. I'm just going to go and finish all of these, and so we're going to go past 5. So don't worry if I haven't gotten to yours yet. New question, Rod. What do I think about including a CTA for next week's email? Which email? Or do you mean like next week as in like the copy that emails? So this next one is from Ollie. Here's a services page for a local carpet repair business. I'd be really appreciative if you could rip it to shreds. Excellent. The last one? Well, I think they said the last one ended, look for tomorrow's email. The subject line is X, because I don't know how all the rest of the emails are going to go, but typically what you do in these is like really engaging thing, and you're going to try to sell them over a series of emails. And so really what you're trying to do here is just hook them into this emotional story to get them to read the next one. So, if you do a good enough job in here, then really it is like you can just say, look for tomorrow's email. And the way in which you can measure this is like if you were testing different versions of this email, you would look at the open rate for the next one. So you'd have keep the headline, keep the keep the subject line, keep the SSL the same for this one, and the variant. Have the content or the CTA in this be different than the CTA in the other one, and then test the open rates for like the subsequent email, which of those is higher based off of the change you made in this one. So I think this is good enough, but if you wanted to test it, you could. But next one. So service pages. I completely forgot what I said this was about. This is okay, so it's like on a website for a carpet repair business. There's like a service tab, presumably, and on there, this is what this is. Okay. So the medium services webpage for a local carpet repair business, seed awareness, product aware, intention, explain services, offer, and convince readers to schedule a free quote. Straightforward enough. So how we can help. Our team has collectively serviced 150 businesses and homes since our creation. An unwavering focus on product quality and thoughtful labor is the reason we've stayed in business so long. We specialize in the installation, restoration, and renovation of carpet and flooring. The goal of our team is to deliver every person with the flooring they desire, which means our services are personally suited to the needs of every customer. Carpet Repair Brisbane guarantees a free quote for any business or home searching for the right flooring furniture. So once we've discussed what you need and how we can get you there, we'll send over a quote and you can see our frequently valuable prices with your own eyes. Oh, I see. You're saying like you could also have like get tomorrow's email today. So this is what Dan Throssell does in his parallel welcome sequence emails. You can do that if you want to speed someone up, in the process. However, if you're doing like a daily email sequence, like an email sequence over like a couple days, it's probably not worth it in terms of like infrastructure and the time it takes to set that up. If you're just a regular ass business or you're one person doing it, like I've heard Dan say that like that boosted open rates and some other metrics for him. However, I've heard other people say that it didn't end up making a huge difference when they've implemented it. So that's one of those things that you can like test, but I wouldn't say that that is necessarily going to improve the quality of your email sequence. But worth the test if you have the time, you have the energy. I think with all of these sort of email optimizations, the thing we have to think about is like, what's the trade-off? So even if that would increase your conversion rate, your open rate, your whatever, your drop-off rate for your sequence, does the amount of time you have to spend to set that up to do that outweigh the benefit you would get from improving a different page, working on a different project, working on a different offer, et cetera, et cetera. I think when we're at the beginning of our careers, it's very easy to say, oh yeah, let's just build this extra thing, because if you're not getting paid for your time anyway, or building stuff, or you're trying to get from 0 to 1, it makes a lot of sense just to throw lots of energy at different things. But if you're a business that already has stuff working well enough, oftentimes it's a better investment to just spend more time in actual advertising, spending more on your ad spend, than it is to spend time to pay someone to design a system that would allow you to have a parallel welcome sequence, for example. Something to consider, but you're not wrong. This could be effective. All right, so actually next email. So blurb, button, book a quote now. Great. Carpet installation. Our carpet installation process involves 4 steps, all of which we provide as part of the service. So step 1, clear the existing area. Ensure the carpet process can be seamless. Purchase the material for the project and transport to work site. Begin the installation process using premium grade materials and equipment. Polishing, refinement, evaluation. We'll give you an optional 30-day, 50% off revision. This means if you aren't satisfied with the end result, we'll come back and provide a revision for 50% of the regular price. If you find out more, here's in-depth installation process. So link here now. 1 second. How do I do this? Oh, cool. Okay. Sorry. Then get a quote, carpet repair, carpet renovation. Okay. So what I'm going to say is, just generally speaking, this is the counterpoint to the staccato thing, where I spent all that time talking about like, hey, I really love long paragraphs. Paragraphs are great. Paragraphs are like way more efficient, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The flip side of that is that like paragraphs can be really, really long. And when we give ourselves the space to use paragraphs, we often include lots of information that isn't always relevant to the user intent for a page. So let's take a step back and think about, why is someone on the services page for a carpet repair website? Probably, I feel pretty comfortable saying this, is that if you manage to get to the services page for a website like this, you are looking for a company who can do a very specific thing. So putting ourselves in the shoes of that company, what we want to present to that person is, what is, like, if someone is looking for services, what is information we could show them that would absolutely 100% make them want to go with us, to click book that consultation right here, right now. And so when I think about that person, or when I think about that kind of copy, that's usually not a really long paragraph on like that generally goes through the entirety of your business. This is like useful information. This is like good information. But I think considering the person who gets to this page, who really, really wants to, buy some fucking carpet installation, they don't need to hear about, you specialize in installation and restoration of renovation of carpet and floor, and the goal of our team is to deliver every person with the following desire, which means our services are personally suited to the needs of every customer. Like that's all great. That's all useful. That's excellent if that's the case. And now is not the time to be telling them that. So like, you could consider just deleting this and just have, the headline of the page be like, our services, book a quote now, carpet installation. I don't know if they need to know the 4 steps of the carpet installation. You could say we have a special 4-step process which ensures that our installations are, quick, painless, and don't need to be done twice. Leave your emphasize the sort of customer experience there, not the what you're physically doing, because no one gives a fuck if you clear the existing area. If you don't clear the existing area and the carpet's still perfect, no one's going to care. The only reason you do this is because it ensures that they have the end result. And so talk about the end result you're trying to ensure, because that's what people want to hear. So you can say like, our process does this. That they don't care about, well, that's not true, but that you purchase the material needed and transport it to the worksite is not what the person needs to be hearing at this point in time. You could say something like, we handle all purchasing and installation of the carpet you choose, and we have selections of this, that, and the other. And so you can talk about the choice they get, how easy it is to get the carpet installed because you handle that. But like as a bullet, effectively, because this is how that reads, this is not particularly strong on its own. And so if you're going to say this, it needs to shift from we purchase to we do the thing that makes your life really super easy and beautiful. Similar stuff from here. They don't care that you use premium grade materials and equipment. They don't care about the floor being strong per se. They care about it being beautiful, and they don't have to worry about falling through it. Stuff like your guarantee. I think it's hard for people to assess details often. And so this is something I would say, like talking about, okay, we have a 50% revision policy. It does not sound very sexy. When I'm thinking about, okay, if I get my carpet installed, how much am I, like, I'm thinking like, okay, I want the person to come and do it and then I pay for it and then it's done. I don't want to think about, well, what happens if they fuck it up at this point? Like, it's good to maybe like say that during the consultation as they're like, yes, I want this from you. But if you say it here, it's just going to kind of raise some objections or make people think about like the bad outcomes that may lead them to reconsider going with you. So be careful about that. And like you do here, you could have just a page that's the installation process that lists all this stuff. So like if you say, you could just have this boil down to like a summary, get a quote. Similar thing, summary, get a quote. Summary, get a quote. And you could have separate pages that go into details for people who really want them. But I really do think the most powerful thing you can do in cases like this is just have like service, very brief summary, pictures of the beautiful work you've done, get a quote. Just make it very easy, straightforward. And also like for the book a quote thing, you could play with like having it be like a calendar invite where they can pick a day or select a time versus, call us now. There are some different ways you can play with doing that, but really the thing is just tell them you offer the thing they're looking for. Tell them why it's going to make their life super, super easy. Show them why they want the result that you're going to offer. Give them the opportunity to book with you. Laura says, with the how we can help section, do better with benefit bullets. Yeah, this would be better with bullets. It would not be as clunky. I would still argue that like for the specific user intent, probably you don't even have to do that. If you substituted bullets for this here and then like made the other changes on the page, I would not be deeply offended and hate you. But you could probably not do it at all. Yeah. So I'm going to move on to the next one. So this is from Zenith. It's a naturopath landing page. Target audience are women who are age 13 to 35. They have below average income, 20K PA. What's that? Oh, per annum. Okay. So $20,000 a year. If they are single, they're anywhere. They primarily use Twitter and Reddit. They want the product because it will alleviate symptoms of depression, anxiety without experiencing side effects or withdrawals. Problem aware. And it's a mood disorder appraisal plus 30-minute mental health consultation. Okay. So cool. And this is a little long. We'll see. I'm going to read until I stop, and then we'll talk about it, and then I'll skim the rest. And Zenith, since you're here, if you have any particular questions or parts you want me to look at, just let me know, and I can prioritize that. But this looks like a full blown out sales page, so that's pretty exciting. So the natural remedy that will solve depression without side effects. Newly discovered research eases the side effects of depression within minutes, no matter your age or medical history. Is depression or anxiety taking over your life? This new ironclad treatment allows you to access the feel-good chemicals in your body, ultimately giving you a clear plan to overcome your battle with depression. We have a quote, "Thanks to Dr. Kennedy, I've begun to see the light at the end of the tunnel. While depression can feel like a huge obstacle, Dr. Kennedy has given me the tools and guidance to navigate it with grace and strength. I highly recommend him to anyone who's looking for a compassionate, knowledgeable, and dedicated healer to guide them through their journey towards better mental health." Do any of these sound familiar? Struggling with low energy and motivation to the point where doing simple tasks is difficult? Easily overwhelmed or irritable or frustrated? Or having a short fuse even in response to small things? That's a good one. feeling like the old you is lost forever. Do you ever feel like you're being left behind while the rest of the world moves forward? Unexplained physical problems like dizziness and headaches. Taking medication that brings a bunch of unwanted side effects. Don't suffer in silence. Let us help you overcome your struggles. Take a short analysis and get a free 30-minute consultation for free. We do virtual or phone consultations for those not in our area. Just a quick question, Zenith. Is this the analysis? Is this like a quiz? What is this? Is this like something you have to get on the phone with someone to do? Or is this something like they do independently and then you get sent their results? So traditional methods equals throwing medicine at your face. Traditional methods of treating depression are highly dismissive. Depression isn't, oh, sorry. It's independent thing they do for 30 minutes and we get results. No question is crazy, not gonna lie. Did you ask a question? Well, you asked the dumbest fuck question for that was not at all related to what we're doing. So of course I'm gonna ignore that. The fuck? Okay, Zena. So one thing I'll say is we take a short analysis and get a 30-minute consultation for free. I'd say like take a short quiz. Sounds like a lot better. It's a lot easier. And people are used to taking online quizzes and stuff. And so you may reduce some friction in getting people to click here. If you say, click here to take a short mental health quiz, rather than take a short analysis. Analysis is scary, technical. Quizzes are fun things we do to learn about our personalities. Or so they say. I think if someone were anxious and depressed, they want to know exactly how the analysis goes. So like, yeah, I think this is like, because you use the word analysis, Laura then thinks it's like this really heavy, deep thing. And like there's going to be some friction even taking it in the first place. If it's like a quiz, you could also say too, like 100% anonymous quiz. Say some things to make it a little bit easier to take it. Where are we? So throwing medicine at your face. Traditional methods of treating depression are highly dismissive. Depression isn't a one size fits all. Okay, this needs to get reframed. One size fits all, or let's say depression doesn't have a one size fits all solution. Depression itself is not a solution to anything. Everyone is unique and different, requiring a whole different approach. That is why we take a deep dive into the world of holistic healing of the body, mind, and soul. Naturopathy is the future, which provides people with the time and dedication that medical doctors fail to offer. Take a short quiz focusing on health status, mood, behavior, stress, and neurotransmitter balance. Did you know it's more accurate than a blood test? And then CTA. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. So one thing I will say, I think that this format and stuff is good so far, and I think the way in which you're going through it is pretty good. But the most obvious thing to me is that your target audience here is super, super young, and so I think a lot of the phrasing here, a lot of the verbiage, is a little bit technical and feels more medical to me than feelsy. And so what I would imagine is that if you are an 18-year-old reading this, things like research, things like medical history, things like analysis, these are really small words that make the problem you have sound a lot bigger than you may perceive it. And so this may feel like it's not for you. I think for lots of young people who struggle with mental health stuff, it is this kind of process or experience of feeling like you're not yourself, feeling like all these things that you're touching on here, these great bullets, low energy. You are getting set off at the smallest things. You talk about changes in relationships. And so, like, what you want to hear when you're perceiving these things that make you feel differently about your life than you have up until this point is not like treatment per se. You want to figure out what the fuck is going on, and then like how can changes be made, or how can someone help you? And that help may take some different forms, but you certainly, like, I think this resonates. You don't want someone to throw medicine at your face, because medicine means you're sick. There's something wrong with you. And so again, like the stuff with being dismissive and there isn't one size fits all solution. I think all this stuff is great. Just the lead up to this, tone this down, make this a little bit more like feels based, Yes, definitely talk about how easy it is, how non-invasive it is. What I was saying about it being anonymous, I think, and it being a quiz, just make it feel like a little bit easier to get into and to consider in a genuine way. Because especially if you're someone who is anxious, who does have depression, those obstacles that we normally think about when it comes to copy are going to apply even more, because you're already feeling those obstacles in your day-to-day life. Yeah, just a little bit too medical. And if we're being honest, depression, anxiety, these are medical issues, and so they should be treated seriously as such. But if we're thinking about psychologically how to get people to buy into that, we got to walk them into it where they are. And for most people, you're not starting off thinking, okay, well, I have clinical depression, and so that means like there's either some sort of dopamine or serotonin imbalance. Therefore, I need to like get on SSRIs to help me regulate that until I can make the changes in my life that will help my body regulate those neurotransmitters in a more natural way, such that I can wean myself off medication. Like no one's thinking that the first time they're dealing with this, and so we gotta make sure that we can make it approachable, we can make it feel comfortable, and we can make it feel like something that fits the life that they have and that they want to get back to. And so I'm just going to skim the rest of this. I think the leaving me in a rut for 20 years is not a great headline, given we're talking about young people. And so, you could say set me back years, or cost me my youth, or, talk about you lost the thing that these young people feel like they're on the verge of losing right now. And, thinking about this stuff, if these people don't feel like they have clinical depression, they don't want to be diagnosed with clinical depression, maybe like having a little bit more gentle entry into it might be a little bit better, but just something to consider. Definitely talk about, the ways in which normal interventions didn't help for you. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, so I think actually, if you go back and you look at the soap opera email we did before this, I think it was maybe 2 ago, where the guy is talking about how he was struggling, all this stuff happened, everything was going to shit, and then the one thing changed it. That's a good format for you to use at this point right here. This also is like a kind of long. And so one thing you could do, of course, the generic copy thing where you're breaking it up into more readable chunks, thinking about younger audiences, attention span, whatever, readability, very, very important. So you can do that to make it easier, but also probably just shortening this bit. Fewer details, more, denser, more to the point statements. So researching again, like I think stuff like this. So I began to research alternative methods of treating depression and found many options that my doctor didn't even tell me about. I spent whole working hours cooped up in the library, reading peer-reviewed medical journals, and taking extensive notes on everything I read. After learning practically everything, I was confident to start experimenting with various natural therapies, nutritional supplements, and herbal medicines myself, using myself as a test subject. I honed my skills in naturopathy to heal myself from depression entirely. This ignited passion in me to spend the rest of my life giving a helpful hand of those sentenced to a lifetime of taking pills. I see myself and my patients. I want to give them the escape I so desperately wanted back when I was slipping through. You could condense this to after being fed up with traditional methods that didn't help me and left me feeling terrible side effects, I decided to find a new solution myself. After spending a really long time researching everything from this to that, I started experimenting with. I learned about natural therapies, natural therapies or natural interventions that that started me on my journey to naturopathy. Now I want to share what I discovered with you. Much shorter, saves you 3 paragraphs. Yeah, I would worry about compliance issues a bit with this too, where like definitely you're gonna have to be careful about saying things like this solves depression, this whatever. Like, legally, I'm not in the health field, so I cannot tell you. I'm not a lawyer. I cannot tell you what you can and can't say, but you have to be like very careful about saying like you can cure things like depression, you can solve depression, you can remove depression. And not just from a compliance standpoint, but from a moral standpoint, think about, is it actually appropriate to promise to an 18-year-old who is struggling with this for the first time in their life that you can do that? Can you really guarantee that result? And even if you think you can, would you feel comfortable promising that to somebody who's at like maybe the lowest point in their entire life? That is something that we all have to grapple with as copywriters or people or marketers or whatever. But particularly in an area sensitive like this, please be very, very careful, because that, for us it's work, but for some people these are their lives, and we don't want to, cause them to make mistakes that they can't take back. So do be mindful of that. Yeah. And also just from like a believability standpoint, I think saying stuff like I experimented on myself is not going to inspire tons of confidence in people. So like just as a line in and of itself, probably not the strongest. 100% drug-free natural remedies that work for all types of depression symptoms. I think this is where we get into the compliance stuff, where it's like, what does work mean? And you're saying it treats psychotic depression, cyclothymic disorder, or low state, and like you can maybe get away from that, or get away with that for stuff like feelings of guilt or worthlessness. But like saying that these 100% natural remedies work for major depressive disorder, you're going to need to qualify that. You're going to need research studies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Very, very difficult to prove. If you're just a copywriter, that compliance stuff is not necessarily your problem, so to speak, but that's something your client should absolutely be thinking about. How it works. Same sort of stuff. Simple process. Okay. So like more or less same stuff. Good to have reviews. Where we're located. Get started now. Okay. So like format and stuff is fine. Just biggest thing is think about your audience. Think about how they relate to these things. Reframe your writing for them. And then be incredibly careful about all this compliance stuff, and think about how you want to operate in that space on like an ethical level, because very sensitive area, and like you being careless could have other consequences. And so like if you're going to sell this, you have to be like incredibly conscientious of that, to do that in an ethical manner. But yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna move on. Zach. Okay. So next one's sophomore college SATs ad copy. Who is this from? This is from Ash. One and only Ash. So ad copy for Google search engine results page. Oh, very short. Okay. Subject line tab, get college ready, SAT course prepping, prep yourself for college. Oh, this is you. Okay. Preparation for college, SAT courses, take the first step, SAT prep courses. Body meta description is Registering gets you access to our courses, online study guides, and numerous tips to improve your test scores, gain the upper hand amongst your peers, and reach for the best test scores before taking your SAT exam. Click to sign up now and get ahead of the crowd. Oh, this is interesting. Okay. I want to do an experiment. Before I do, does anyone else have thoughts on this? Okay. So what I'm going to guess is that your target audience is, yep. So exactly what Evan said. I think you have the wrong target audience. I think your audience is actually parents. So obviously there are some sophomores who are really really ambitious, who are trying to get the high score in the SAT, but most people I know who ended up taking SAT prep courses did not do so because they wanted to, and they actually really did not want to. They hated going to that shit because their parents who made them, because their parents cared about their future and getting into the best schools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to Google SAT prep. So first one is Princeton Review. Show colleges you're ready academically. Better scores guaranteed. Register today. Provides personalized and innovative private tutoring, test prep, admission products. Okay. Kaplan is unlimited SAT classes from now until you graduate high school. Enroll now. Khan Academy. Take real full-length SAT practice. Unlimited prep. You'll be ready for it. So this is interesting. So this is different from what I thought. So I, like Evan, thought that this was going to be like mostly centered on, can you guys not see that? Mostly centered on parents, but actually these are all framed as toward students. Now, I wonder if that's like really what the audience is, because I suspect it's not. These things are like hundreds of dollars, and so, that's if you click this. Or let's click. Huh. Yeah, it's all framed at the student. That's cool. Kind of cool. So, I suspect Ash, did their homework. So that's probably why it's framed that way. But given that framing, registering contested courses. So one thing, with all PPC stuff, not a ton of space, and so you just want to get to the point. And so notice that there are not a ton of usually it just get stuff. There's not action to get, and so you can just like delete this. So just get access to courses. Honestly, guys, I'd reframe tips to like something else. There's probably some other like keyword or something here, like practice tests. But yeah, let's just say that. Let's just say practice tests to improve scores, gain the upper hand. And then this right here, I think, is like where no one talks about this. And no one cares about upper hand amongst your peers and reach for, gain advantage on the test maybe. And are there even CPAs in the body text itself? Show, get. Yeah, so like none of these are actually saying click here to do that, which means that like this is just free real estate. So often because like once you go that far, you're gonna ruin our rooms anyway, and it's gonna like trail off. So like don't even bother saying this. They know it's an ad, they know it's a link, they're gonna click it because by nature of where it is on the page. Oh, this is an exercise from the AWOT course. Okay. Okay. And definitely please look at other Google ads before you do this. Just, you don't have to copy them, but it's very useful to use that as a starting point for what are other people marketing on, especially what are the biggest companies marketing on. If not to copy them, at least to figure out how to differentiate yourself. So I think all this stuff is like really good. Here I would consider going for something else. And so if this is like a local company, for example, you could say private one-on-one session or one-on-one sessions with tutors in Ann Arbor, or one-on-one tutoring in Ann Arbor, or wherever you're located, yada, yada, yada. So yeah. And then for the headlines, get college ready, prep yourself, take the first step. I think the prepping for college is probably not great here because people don't take the SAT to be ready for college. They take the SAT to get into college. So I think Kaplan was doing like 1,400 score or something guaranteed, or 1,400 plus score guaranteed, or all your prep in one place. There's some benefit to it that exists in the context of taking the test itself. So don't go for like the college readiness kind of thing, because that's not why people, like, the kind of person who is taking the SAT and trying to take it competitively already thinks they're college ready. It's just a matter of doing well in the test. So. Okay. So I think that's good. Do you have any more questions on this? Thank you for a quick one. Get your parents off your back. Mike kills an angle for this. I love this. And if I were a parent, I would love if my kid was like, Mom, I need you to stop bothering me. Just sign me up for Kaplan. Like, oh my God. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, let's move on. Next one is from the one and only Mr. Mujama, Warren West himself. So this is for a course info product that he's making that is kind of aimed at helping people get their first freelancing gig. And I think we actually went over a version of this 2 weeks ago. So we'll see how this is changed. However, given our audience here, if you guys have any objections to this, or you guys think part of this sucks or is not good or super good, on the other hand, let me know, or let Warren know, because I think he would like to talk to people like the Copy That audience. So, oh, he's back. Nice. But yeah, so help him out. And Warren, if you want to ask questions in chat to me or to everyone else here, feel free. All right, so let's get into this thing. The Lamborghini gurus are lying to you. Find out how real freelancing made me just $70,400 in just 15 hours a week. And how you can make real money starting today, even with no experience, no formal training, and no clue where to begin. I like that. Is this oh my God, it's a video? I love how life on my terms is me tickling a small child. Everybody critique the video, please. Okay. I think you should lean into a music video with dollar bills everywhere too. Okay. And so, to be really honest, actually, I think the video is pretty good. Obviously, like, generic MVP, whatever, but the story it tells is good. Um, the actors were but So for just because I'm curious, I think you could probably get away with this as is. But are you planning on running it like this, or are you eventually gonna like? Are you gonna narrate it yourself? Or are you gonna pay someone else to narrate it? What's that? What's the end game for that look like? Um, I think you guys scared him away. You shamed him. But anyway, so let's see. Jump straight to the details. Jumps to the bot to the offer. Okay. One thing I will say just right now is you use a different number than this in the video, and you said you were working 3 to 4 hours a day. To me, that's actually more powerful than 15 hours a week. And so I would consider saying just like, that made me $70,000 working just 3 to 4 hours a day. Okay. I absolutely do think the video is good enough as is. Though maybe do get rid of the part where they're raining hundreds, because we ain't in hundo territory yet. So valuable actual info from someone who's been where I want to go. I think so. You definitely know more about this stuff than I do. However, my sort of idea for how these things work is like, you're selling people a dream, this dream of like, okay, my life's not where it is right where I want it to be right now, but there's a place I can go where it's gonna be better. I'm gonna make more money. I'm gonna be less stressed about work, either because I'm working less, or my job's better, or I feel like I have more freedom, power, control. And so you stumble onto the page, you get the headline, you get the hey, without these pain points, great. I think what I want, just that alone isn't enough for me to buy in. I would want this testimonial to be something like, for so long, I felt stuck. And after getting, reading, buying, get my first gig, I was able to like take the steps I needed for my life to change. I was able to get the change. I was able to start on that path to change, whatever. I think that like the testimonial here should be more along that like dream state, than just the. I think valuable and actionable info is like not illustrative enough of what it is that someone coming to this page is actually looking for. Not the loser cruiser. So what is Get My First Gig? Get My First Gig is a counterintuitive approach to landing your first freelancing gig. It allows you to get clients fast, avoid common pitfalls, and stand out from the competition without wasting your time on ineffective strategies or cold outreach. We achieve this by teaching you the secrets of where to find tons of paying gigs, showing you exactly how to stand out, and attracting clients like a magnet using simple psychological sales tricks. And as a result, this frees you up to work with clients you love, earning a living doing what you're passionate about, and achieving financial freedom. This is the Get My First Gig promise. So, Get My Gig is this. It allows you to do this without this, with the benefit of this. We do this by this, with all these other things you like, which makes your life this. I like that. Okay. Yeah, Evan makes a good point where the how I made this headline at the very top does sort of it kind of implies a story. And so the how did you do this? I expect to hear the how you did this. Or like what was the mechanism of freelancing? Not what is the mechanism to get into freelancing to do the thing. So this could be a matter of just like switching these sections up, because it seems like here is like, before I couldn't get my first gig, I was struggling at my regular job for years. It was miserable. Freelancing seemed like it could work, but wasn't sure where to begin, which led me to question everything. Yeah. So I think what I would do is I would change this headline to like something indicating the story or hinting the story. So before I did this, I was struggling here. Freelancing seemed like it worked. Then have some sort of like hook that's like, then the Lamborghini gurus fucked me super, super hard. I bought into the hype, but none of it was true. I felt like I wasted everything. I felt I was betrayed or whatever. Yada, yada, yada. But then I questioned everything, broke all the rules, and had some major success. Because a lot of people are going to go through this thing where they're struggling, where freelancing seems like it works. Then they buy into the hopium from the gurus, and then they realize they hit that despair mode. And then if that's the point at which you think these people are at, such that you felt comfortable writing this headline, then you can then tie it back into, but after that happened, then this other crazy thing occurred that led me to, this is why I'm uniquely qualified to teach you about XYZ. And then you say, what is Get My First Gig? And I think that this itself is fine. And then go into tackling those obstacles or objections, excuse me. So maybe you think freelancing won't work for you because you're worried that you don't have the necessary skills or experience to succeed as a freelancer. You lack the confidence to promote your services to potential clients. I'd change this to like, you lack the confidence to sell yourself to potential clients. Just in my experience, it's less about the services or promoting than it is people feeling really uncomfortable with selling or sales. You're intimidated by the uncertain nature of freelancing and lack of security comes with a regular paycheck. You think you'll be overwhelmed without a mentor to turn to for guidance when you start out. You might feel burnt out from your regular job, and the thought of adding freelancing to the mix is just too much. I'd change this to, I know it breaks with like the you thing. I'd change this to, even though you feel burnout, or even though you're experiencing burnout at your regular job, comma, the thought of adding freelancing to the mix seems like just too much, with the implication being that like you're going to show them a way to gradually add freelancing to their life that's not overwhelming. You might feel like everything needs to be perfect before you start freelancing, which leads to procrastination. and you might be afraid of facing rejection from clients. Yeah, that's fine. And Warren, don't worry about it. I don't care. Watch the replay. Also, just like DM me because I love you and your children. I guess your wife's okay too. Hope she's doing well. I'm going to show you how to keep all those negative thoughts from stopping your success. And we got a graphic. Enjoy freelancers support the freedom and control of freelancing enables greater focus on health and well-being. If you didn't make this, well, sorry, if you made this, I feel like a better way of doing this would be comparing freelancers to in-house people. The 2021 versus 2022 data, I think, is like, I guess it's notable, but like maybe 2019 versus 2022 would be better. Yeah, I agree with Laura. A lot of this is long. And so making it easier to skim would be a big improvement. Say, oh yeah, so yeah, you could rephrase this to say I'm going to not say I'm going to. I don't think I'm here though is particularly bad. You could say something like, but there's one key to keeping all of those, or there's one key, there's one secret, there's one thing I'm going to reveal that will keep all of those negative thoughts from stopping your success. If you could condense this, that's fine. You could just say, freelancers report more freedom, more feelings of freedom and control. And more well-being and higher well-being. Yeah. And maybe include a citation because we're scientific here. Freelancing is high income, flexible remote work that's more in demand in 2023 than ever before. So why doesn't everyone do it? I've personally coached hundreds of freelancers, and the number one problem is simple. Most people never even get started. You can make $500 a month or $5,000 a month doing work that you love in just a few hours a week. But if you don't take that first step, you'll stay right where you are and nothing will change. The first step is everything. So, okay, one thing I'm getting right now is that this feels like a lot of different angles. And that's not necessarily bad because you can do kind of like what you're doing here and just have these CDAs after every section. So that like someone who reads the right one, the right angle effectively just can click to the offer at that point. However, like the sort of going through it, I don't know. Like there's the continuity of it can feel a little bit disjointed because you start with like, okay, fuck the Lambo gurus. Let's pretend this is next. Here's my story. What is this thing? What is get my first gig? Then we're into objections. Freelancers have a better quality of life. Freelancing, make lots of money. Okay, now fuck the Lamborghini gurus again. Here's the offer section. It looks like testimonials. Meet me. See, like, here you're basically recreating what's up here. Sorry if that was like super hard to see for everybody. But basically, like this section where you're like, I made this because my life. And down here, you're like, story of how you got into freelancing. Look at these beautiful babies. Yeah. Yeah. So Evan says this seems like a lead because this is basically a lead just in the middle or towards the bottom of your thing. Let's actually just read this. And I think I understand why this is here, because it's like meet your coach, et cetera, et cetera. But if you read any like financial, for example, long form sales letter, usually this section is like right after the lead. So the lead is premise into an idea, whatever, open loop into here's the person who's presenting this thing to you. That then lends credibility to everything that's come before it that may have been not entirely believable. And then we get back into the storytelling, the working you towards the offer. So, babe, we need to talk. My wife's shoulders dropped. She knew I wasn't about to say anything good. I got let go today. COVID's cuts, they said. You need a quotation mark here. Close the quote. We had just bought a house. Her eyes got big. She looked down for a second, then back at me. I don't know how to tell you this, she said, her eyes wrapped in tears already. But you're going to be a dad. Oh shit. This is probably the worst timing in the history of, and it's twins. Looking back, losing my job was the best thing to ever happen, typo, to me. In my first year as a freelancer, I made $70,400 working just 15 to 20 hours a week. Year one, my actual 2020 profit. You have to understand, I never knew this was even an option. My dad was a mechanic. He worked all the time, came home smelling like oil and beer, and was too tired to play. My mom was a secretary, chained to a desk, working her life away, making just enough to pay the bills. I was on the same path, working sales jobs 40 plus hours a week, commuting back and forth, begging for days off. Freelancing has shown me how toxic traditional work is. You have no time for self-care. You work to pay for a house you barely spend time in. You kill yourself for your employer because you don't know any other way. And everyone says that's just the way it is. I'm here to tell you it's not. Freelancing gave me freedom of time. I was able to be there during the first year of my kids' lives. I got to spend time with them, bond with them, watch them grow and learn. Freelancing gives you more money and more time. And once you taste that freedom, you'll never want to go back. Enroll in my... Okay. Can we just get like a quick vote in chat? I feel like this is infinitely better or infinitely more emotional than what we read at the top. Did you guys feel the same way? Like goddamn. And like, of course, this is definitely a different angle than this sort of fuck the gurus, kind of just hopping right into it. But in terms of like hooking somebody, in terms of raising the stakes, making this feel like, oh my God, there's this really big moment. What the fuck are we going to do? Like, this is like way more personal and pulls me in a way that I was struggling at my regular job. I was miserable, saw no way out. I was on the verge of giving up. Yeah. Laura, one thing I will say is that people are smarter than we often give them credit for as writers. And one thing that people are really good at is seeing themselves in stories that are not literally the same as their experience. And so it is one thing to say, I was miserable and saw no way out. It was on the verge of giving up. But it is a very different thing to say, I got laid off from my job the same day that my wife told me we were having kids and we just bought a house. And I knew I had to do something or we were all going to be out on the street. There are so many people, and I'm sure we have some of the audience right now, who would love to just become a copywriter, but who can't just give up their life because they have responsibilities, because they have people who they love, who they need to take care of. And so to say, like, I was put in a position that no one ever wants to be put in. And so I had to figure this out. And so this is what I did. This is how I made it through. Gives a kind of hope to somebody who sees themselves in a similar situation in a way that, like, oh, I just hate my job. Just doesn't. Yeah. And this is an excellent point. This is like a very, very effective angle for men. Not being able to provide for your family, feeling worthless, feeling like, you have one job and you're not able to even do that, is such a powerful angle. And I know your target audience is not just men, but like that sort of sense of like responsibility to your family, wanting to provide, wanting to feel productive, and like you're worth something, like you're doing what has been asked of you, is just so good. Evan rightly points out that this does not fit in with that guru audience, the Lambo guru audience. Honestly, based off of like what I've seen from some of our sales and what I know from other people who sell info products in this space, that this audience is probably going to be a better audience than 16-year-olds trying to make a quick buck. I don't know what you're pricing this at, but think about the number of people like you who were mid-career, who wanted to change, who were not happy with the sort of work-life balance their current position affords them, who want to do something else. I think that may be a more reliable target audience for you. And that's definitely worth thinking about. And just assuming that you listen to my and chat's feelings on this, if you were to turn this into the lead, so you have this opening, we just bought the house, stakes raised more. I think then what you say is, but looking back, losing my job was the best thing that ever happened to me. And then you need to have like a break in here somewhere. Or losing my job was just like the best thing that ever happened to me, because in my first year as a freelancer, I made $70,400 working just 15 to 20 hours a week. Break. And then this part right here, where you're talking about like your background and like your family background and what you thought was possible for you, I think is very, very good. And I would love to see that expanded on. There is a really deep seated of people for both men and women, to kind of blow this back out, of like, I'm not the kind of person who can, I'm not smart enough to, and just talking about your background, talking about, the way you saw life, talking about the opportunities you thought were available for you in a way that makes them feel like, oh yeah, he's like me, is very powerful. And then you can like tie that back into working these kinds of jobs, why that doesn't feel worth it. And then this, I'm here to tell you all that was some bullshit. And then tie, like when you're doing the tie into how freelancing gave you like freedom of time, freedom of life or whatever, make sure you're tying in that component of like, freelancing also gave me the ability to be someone who I never imagined I could be. Because I think that's the real thing here. It's not just like, people want freedom of time, but they'll fill the time either way. People want freedom of money, but they'll spend the money they make. But like, I think what ends up being transformative for people is like that sense that this is something I never imagined, and it's better than I thought it was. And I didn't know, a little girl from rural Kansas could become this person who's making, 6 figures a year doing something she loves. Like, I think like that's the sort of sentiment that you're ultimately trying to sell people on. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like Laura and chat. I mean, I guess we are kind of his target audience, and so it's fitting. But like, it really is like, I never heard of copywriting as a job growing up. I never thought this was something I could do, and so to have the luxury to sit at home and work is like really really cool, and be able to be flexible in all these ways, and be able to talk to different kinds of people, and be able to talk to you guys, like, it opens doors in so many ways we can't even imagine. And so, talk to people about that, because that's something that I think no matter who you are, what you've experienced, that sort of opening up of possibilities is always going to be enticing. You see that from this to like Andrew Tate, stop marketing at like 16-year-olds, to like the manifestation stuff that's targeted at like middle-aged women. All of those things ultimately come down to telling people that what things they thought could not be possible for them are in fact possible if they do this one thing. And that's, a powerful tool. Yeah. So that's a lot of stuff for Warren. And let's leave it there for now. If you have questions, feel free to DM me or repost this again. I'm sure all the other people on Copy That will have very, very different opinions than me, but that's my 20 cents. Rizvan, that was not my thing, so I don't have any VOC data for that. So next one is from Poria. This is for an e-commerce product. Oops. So headline, a 1-minute shave in the morning is the only thing you need to be perfectly set up for the day. Oh yeah, no, we got one, maybe two more. The last one, someone asked, I forget who it was, asked us to like look at, evaluate Alex's old website. So we'll do that if we're still feeling it. But yeah, it's funny. I used to do these by myself way back in the day, and so it's kind of fun to go back to that. Yeah. So where were we? So 1-minute shave in the morning is the only thing you need to be perfectly set up for the day. Interesting. I don't know. Is this person did not say if it was like a sales page or an email or what. So looks like we're guessing. Let's pretend it's like a blog post or some shit. You don't need to waste hours a week trying to shave your head and beard. All you need is a 1-minute quick shave and trim to maintain your perfect style and stay smooth. If you choose to go the traditional route, you would spend 5 minutes per day, 35 minutes per week, 140 minutes per month, and 1,680 minutes or 28 hours per year. Oh, thank you, Evan. File title says this is going to be for a sales page. I can't read. I don't know how I'm doing this. Now, this is for a single year. Imagine doing this for 10 years. That's going to be 280 hours of your life that you could enjoy doing what you like doing, spending time with your family, playing with your kids, doing your favorite sport, etc. Imagine the next morning you've received your product name. You shave your head only for just 1 minute and start your amazing day. You make your way to work and see all your colleagues and friends look at you. They can't believe how your bald head shines. It's like a mirror, they can see their reflection in it. But you're the only person who knows the secrets. Product name. But wait, did I tell you this can be done in only 1 minute? Yes, you did. That was the second line. Anyway, but how? Product name uses scalp guard technology uses scalp guard technology, probably using rotary blades. You just need to shave every area only one time. No more need of going over the same area over and over again to make sure there are no leftovers. The second most important thing is that V2 doesn't leave any ingrown hair thanks to the Flex Edge blade system. The Flex Edge blade system ensures the blades don't get blunt and last long while maintaining the same quality as you're using them for the first time. Grip ease built into the product name helps you to hold the shaver very easily while you're shaving. It will stick to your hand even if it's wet. Great. With the grip ease feature on our razor, we've designed an ergonomic handle that's easy to grip and control during shaving. By incorporating a non-slip texture and a comfortable shape that fits snugly in your hand, we've reduced the risk of any mishaps so you can focus on achieving a smooth, effortless shave. With grip ease, shaving becomes a pleasurable experience that you look forward to every day. Okay. 1 second. In that one paragraph, you get some of those overs. Yeah, so, okay. For a sales page. So I'd say that the thing to focus on in this would be to focus on your focus. And what I mean when I say that is that you are kind of all over the place in your in your imagery and in like what the main benefit or feature you're trying to flex is. So, for example, the headline says a 1 minute shave in the morning is the only thing you need to be perfectly set up for the day. So, first of all, we have this idea of being perfectly set up for the day. That then immediately goes to, okay, you don't need to waste hours a week trying to shave your head and beard. Now we're talking about, okay, well, hours a week. We're back to 1 minute shave. But then you go into okay, we're going to dimensionalize the time. So 5 minutes a day works out to 35 minutes per week. So first of all, then it's not hours a week. If you spend 5 minutes right now, it's only 35 minutes, which is half an hour a week. So this is wrong. But okay, we're dimensionalizing it. Okay, now we're talking about for a single year. Now imagine 10 years. So we've gone from 1 minute shave for a day. Now we're talking about 10 years, the benefit over 10 years of shaving more efficiently. Okay, so now you can enjoy doing all these things that you can't because you spend days shaving. Now, but wait, now we're going back to the idea of being perfectly set up for the day, because now imagine that tomorrow you have this thing, you're shaving for just 1 minute, and you start your amazing day, and everyone loves how perfectly bald your head is. But you're the only person who knows the secret. This is obviously, we do know this because it's what you started with. And then we just go into like some features and benefits. And I assume that this is like not the end. So they're just still building this out. So I'd say that the first thing to focus on here that's going to make everything sequentially much easier is just like pick a thing and do it. Rizwan points out that the person hasn't done enough research. I don't know if I don't know. Let's say that, because what I see in this is that this person knows that, okay, shaving daily is something that some people do. Therefore, it's something important, and people love to spend less time doing it. They're talking about the features that, they don't want ingrown hairs. They talk about how people want to feel when they go to work and they're looking their best. So like I would imagine this person has done some research, but probably hasn't picked out like the one most important thing that they want to focus on for the product. And yeah, definitely when you do this and you're kind of all over the place, both in terms of like what you're focusing on in terms of like the benefits of the product itself, but also like these time structures where you're like, okay, 1 minute, now a week, now a day, now 10 years of shaving. it makes the whole thing feel really disjointed in a way that makes it hard for me just to read it and absorb what you're trying to sell me on. So I would go back and kind of pick one thing, maybe do like, if you're going to have this be your headline, you could start here. Just be like, imagine you spend 1 minute, your morning routine is reduced to 1 minute, and yet you still go to work and everyone is staring at your beautiful, bald, glowing head. And they're like, oh my God, Sean, why is your head so beautifully bald? How could you do it? We've never seen a bald head like that before. And you're like, I don't know. I'm not doing anything different. But you're the only person who knows the secret. It wasn't your shaving skills. It was this magical razor. And they'd be even more impressed if they knew that you did all of that beautiful, bald, blissful shaving in just 1 minute. And if they knew, they would ask you, but how, Sean, is your head so beautifully bald? And you would tell them, if they knew what your secret was, that it's because my razor uses scalp guard technology, which incorporates rotary blades that mean that I only have to shave every area one time and not over and over, which is why my shave is 5 times less long than your shave. Not beautifully bald person. But the second most important feature is that there are also no ingrown hairs, which is why my beautifully bald head has no red marks or bumps on it. And the blades never go blunt because my beautifully bald head is blissfully bladed by a blade that never goes blunt. And so on and so forth. Take care, Ash. Have a good one. Thanks for coming. A good shine does come from exfoliation. So really just, focus on one thing, drill it down, do it well, then move on. If you want to talk about stuff like, time saved in the long run, that's fine. Probably, 280 hours over 10 years is actually not that long. Like, you're saving 4 minutes a day. It's like not really that much. Like, it's meaningful, but like, so I just say that. Tidyfield asked an incredibly important question, and not the all-time question. How do we submit to get our copy for review? And this is a great question because I am a terrible salesperson, and I need to tell you that if you want to have your copy submitted, you just go to patreon.com/thecopythatshow. And if you sign up to become a patron, we have a special channel on Discord specifically for our patrons to submit their copy for us to review, and then it'll be critiqued on stream. Or you can just ping us, and sometimes we'll look at it anyway, not on stream. That is a bonus thing that you absolutely don't need to pay for if that's not feasible for you. But that is one option if you want it critiqued on stream. If you don't want to pay for anything and want your copy critiqued anyway, you can go to our Discord anyway, and there is a free critique channel where community people do community critiques. So yeah, that is a resource you can use. Today, I actually messed up and I did not put a link to the Discord in the description of this video. So I will just drop one in chat right now that anyone can use to join the server. You do not need to pay for it to join. So come in, say hi, and wave to us. Oh, let's move on to the final piece. So we are on the MyattBonson.com webpage. For those of you who don't know, this is our very own Alex's website, who I don't know if they actually use this for work anymore, but it's still up. You could try to contact him through this. I don't know if he'll respond to you, but yeah. So he does still currently, I don't know, run a marketing consultancy basically where they build websites for e-commerce business and other people and they help them with their strategy, their page design, their backend, ad management, and copywriting, of course. So he used his website to sell those services to people. Because this is Alex's, I think we should all be as critical as possible. Oh, yeah, I think that's right. He did mention that. So if you guys want to be super mean about this and just, be as critical as you want to, go for it. I will relay everything to Alex. So your very own sales funnel. Websites were never originally built with e-commerce in mind, yet you're still following the same old formula of product categories and add to cart buttons that hasn't changed in 30 years. Give us 30 minutes and we'll give you the key to selling more online. Funnel strategy tailored to your business, page design built on your vision, copywriting crafted for your audience, back end and ad management so you can leave it all to us. Click Get in Touch to book a 30-minute call and we'll tell you exactly how to skyrocket your marketing, whether you decide to work with us or not. What do we got? So does it matter the hero section is kind of text heavy? I think it does, but I don't think this amount of text is actually unworkable. To me, this is more of a page design thing where if there's like a little bit more space here between these buttons, or this is like bolded or kind of made to stand out a little bit more, this amount of this is not actually hard to read. It just looks like a lot because it's condensed into a relatively small area. And the graphic over here is a little bit busy. And so it feels kind of cramped. So to fix this, you could cut it down a little bit, but you could also just change some of the design elements on the page to make it look less busy. Yeah, this is actually pretty good. And that does speak to how good Alex is that he looks at this and it's like, oh, I would change a lot of this. So we got this call to action. It's probably like book a call or something. We got some stuff that they use. So same website, new results. Our tailored sales funnels use conversion strategies designed for the modern age of e-commerce and will build them directly onto your existing site. Exclusive design for your store and your audience to convince more of your digital audience to follow through with purchasing your strategy that's specifically designed to support your products. Our team of experts tailor the process according to focused market research and data source from your industry. Funnel building and management completely done for you. You can leave the entire backend and technical management to us. We don't just build your store's funnels, we maintain them too. This maintenance includes managing integrations, updating software, running A/B tests. You don't need to worry about a thing because it's all done for you. So this kind of area to me feels a little bit text heavy. I think a more modern version of this would probably have some more design. So whereas this is super busy, this is just text. And this suffers from because this isn't bold, it's a little bit hard to read against this dark background. And so maybe you could have some graphics here. You could have some examples. You could have some pictures. You could have some kind of case studies, before and after type things. That's pointing out conversion differences on the same website. There are lots of different ways to spice that up. But I would say that the text here, it's not bad. It's pretty easy to understand. It's not super verbose. And so someone who ran a business might be able to understand these words, even though they're kind of technical. Let's see. How warm is the target audience at this stage of Alex's funnel? I have no idea, honestly. At this point, anyone who gets here is super, super cold because it's just us. But probably back in the day, I have no idea. If they were really trying to market this, they were probably running PPC ads. But I don't honestly know what they were doing. If you were just targeting business owners on specific keywords, you could probably get them reasonably warm, especially if you're focusing on something as specific as e-commerce. But Yeah. And Lost Boy. We are almost done. This is the last one. So yeah, Laura also makes a good point. If someone's on your homepage, you can assume they're pretty warm. Though I don't know if they have any other pages. This happens to go here. This just looks like the contact us page. Yeah, this is the same link. So probably for a site like this, that just like an MVP, this would function as a landing page more or less. And so they might just you could just drive traffic to this. So next, so how increase online sales for your business? Step 1, the perfect plan. Step 2, build and delivery. Step 3, improve and maintain. So this, I think, strikes that really good balance of like text versus things to break up the text. Whereas like this is like super, super busy. This is just very, very dense. This is like, okay, kind of logical flow. And if anything, I think this website is like a good case study in the difference that design can make for copy. Because, realistically speaking, there's not a huge difference in like saying step 1, perfect plan paragraph versus this paragraph. But this looks way more digestible, a little bit easier to parse because of the way it's set against the design on the page. Yes, text-heavy landing pages are written for warmer audiences anyway. One thing, I guess one distinction I draw to is that it's not necessarily better for warmer audiences, but it may be better for more sophisticated audiences. And what I mean by sophisticated is audiences that have more knowledge about the thing you're talking about or more understanding of the industry. So someone could be a cold lead for you, but if you drive them to a page with something that, like, let's say a e-commerce business owner who's never heard of Alex before, if they get to this page and he's talking in terms they use, they may be more willing to read text-heavy, like a more text-heavy website that's specifically tailored towards them. And so you might see a higher conversion rate on that cold traffic because you're targeting more sophisticated individual audiences. Something to consider. Yeah, I think one of the things I can't stress enough is how successful the site is because of how easy it is to read. Like the language Alex uses is very conversational. It's very accessible, even while using very important industry terms that people are going to be looking for. And so this sounds like the kind of person who you would want to work with. And so that's a very important trait. And then claim back your lost conversions. Marketing is perhaps the easiest element of business to get wrong. There's so many options when it comes to attracting and converting leads. Our problems. This is another section where it's just like some graphics would benefit. Because when I see claim back your lost conversions, I think you're going to be trying to talk to me about like cart abandonment sequences, but that's not what he's talking about there. And so more pain points and the struggle of constantly changing your marketing plan, tailored to your business by specialists. Meet our directors. Waterfalls work. Are we right for you? Facts. And then like a final, just like get your free personalized strategy framework. So I think it's pretty good. I think as you get kind of towards the end, you see where like there is a bit of redundancy. There's a bit of like the design, I think, is like cool for the first couple sections, but then it ends up being a little bit cumbersome to read as you go further and further and have to read more and more and more text. But given that this is probably functioning as a landing page, and that's like the only page they're driving traffic to, probably you feel comfortable just kind of throwing everything at the wall and having a ton of extra sections, if you can get the first part done pretty well, which I think they do, it's interesting. But yeah. So if you guys have more questions about that one, I would just like shoot Alex a ping, or ask again in the future stream. But I think that is going to be it for us today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I am going to make dinner, feed my dog, etc. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. If you have more questions, feel free to ping me on the Discord server, which I will link again. Please feel free to join the Copy crew and chat with us, because we love to see you. So until next time, I guess actually, quick announcement on Monday, I believe. Monday the 3rd at 3 p.m. EST, we will be having our monthly version of the Copy That Show, the episode. So come see all of us there, and we'll hang out and talk copy, and maybe even have another critique stream next Thursday. We'll see. Thanks for joining me. This was a lot less lonely than doing this by myself. So take care, guys. Bye.